Hi, and welcome to the Feminine Podcast, your weekly source of feminine guidance and inspiration. I'm Wana Stojanovic, CEO and founder of the Feminine Platform, transformational coach, and a rite of passage facilitator. Here at the Feminine Podcast, we view every woman's life as a canvas, each stroke filled with stories that shape and empower you. Join me in this unique journey as we explore the rich tapestry of emotions, passions, and profound questions that we encounter on the feminine path. This isn't just a podcast. It's a sacred space where your voice matters, where healing and inspiration unite, where a community of curious, powerful, and passionate women come together to trailblaze what it means to live a feminine embodied life. Are you ready to embrace a life filled with passion, create from the depths of your heart, and fully embody the essence of the feminine? Look no further. You found your sanctuary. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first episode. Today we are trailblazing what it means to be feminine with our first episode ever. So welcome. This is very exciting. And I cannot wait for us to go deeper every single week moving forward in the topics that you choose. Just to give you a little bit of introduction before we dive in, you're going to pick the topic every week through our polls. So make sure you check in with our community group here, inside of the community group, with all the topics and ask me absolutely any question. Yes, we've received so many questions. It's amazing. I think we have topics for the next 10 podcast episodes, and this is beautiful and it's amazing. So thank you so much for your engagement and for really, coming together in this conversation. It is my purpose for this podcast to be a sacred sanctuary for all of us, to connect, commune, and explore together all the main topics that are part of our womanhood, part of our journey, part of the feminine path, and learn how to bring the wisdom, sometimes the ancient practices, the ancient wisdom, into our modern life, into every corner of our life, so that we can thrive, so that we can feel empowered and fulfilled. Each podcast will have a teaching segment and then a live Q&A. And at the live Q&A, you can request permission to speak, and then you can press the mute button and ask your question, and then I will answer. We also have some pre-recorded, questions from everybody who couldn't join us live. And to the best of the ability that we have in the time frame we've carved for the podcast, an hour and 15 minutes, it is my intention to answer all of the questions, but rest assured these questions will be captured and we will reply to all of them through all our episodes. So your question will not be left unanswered. As you are joining and coming live, hello again. You are all muted because this is part of the structure that enables all of us to have a good sound, because this live session will be edited into a podcast and we will announce the episode live both on our Instagram and YouTube and SoundCloud channels, and we will write more about that in full detail in the captions below within the group. So when the time is right, I will give you the floor so that you can ask any question live. Right, let's dive in. Today's topic, what do you think it is? A very much needed topic for us to talk about. Today's topic is, how do you take care of yourself? Especially through the holiday season, how do you communicate your boundaries or know your boundaries before communicating them with ease and grace so that you don't generate more conflict over the Christmas dinner? How do you understand and what it actually implies to take care of yourself, especially in such a busy and stressful period like the holidays, because the preparations bring a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, especially on us women who take the role of taking care of everybody and everything. And how do we navigate the holidays, keeping our emotional frequency high and really feeling that we've been included in everything that's happening, right? So these are the main questions of today's theme. And when I'll offer you the floor, you can ask your live questions as you see fit. Let's start with the first question, shall we? How to take care of yourself. How do you navigate with ease and grace, especially in stressful situations or stressful environments, and keep your emotional frequency high? And I especially wrote down emotional frequency high and not just your frequency, because I think for us women, the way we take care of our emotions and the way we pay attention to our emotions is part of us fully understanding the concept of self-care. We are emotional creatures, we are energetic creatures, and I don't think we fully understand or fully grasp how much it is required for us to pay attention and fully notice our emotions as we are experiencing them, and how this is intrinsically linked, directly linked to our well-being. Our emotions put in motion our energy, our sexual, sensual energy. Most of the times, in a surprising manner, when we take really good care of our emotions throughout a month, our menstrual cycle is easy, flows naturally. We just move more aligned with our sexual energy. We feel more embodied. We feel more relaxed, more at ease. And we feel that life is easier, right? On all levels. Why? Because we have processed the most important aspect, the most important layer of our being, the emotional dimension, the emotional layer. You know, oftentimes I would go into the holiday season many years back, just moving into the hustle, you know, like a morphic field would absorb me. And then I would have to do all these parties, attend all these events, manage all the gifts, make the Christmas tree. And even before I had a daughter, that was very, very important to me. And it literally deprived me of my spiritual practice 100%. It was like I would tune into a different human being altogether, who lose all the practice, all the rituals, and just jump into the hustle of the holiday season, just to end up totally disconnected and burn out at the end. Why? Not because I went to all those parties, not because I prepared all those events and cooked dinner and managed gifts and presents, but because I wasn't paying attention to my emotions while I was doing that. And God forbid, should I stop, breathe a little, and tune into how my body is feeling about the party, about the people in the party. Yes, I'm excited. However, the dynamics kick in. And if I want to be fully present and fully embodied and fully taking care of myself, somebody asked me, what are the practices you can do during these times? Well, one of my main practice is to really literally envision in my inner sight how that party will play out, what I will like about the party, and after the enthusiasm slows down, what I won't like about the party, or the things I would have to manage in relationship to how other people's energies, flows, dynamics connect with me or I connect with them, and how this dynamic affects me long term. Not just because I don't like people or I'm going to the party with the wrong people. Even if I love people, the people in the party, sometimes their energy can have a toll on me. So a practice is I just replay or imagine or kind of include the whole party in my mind before I actually go into the party. And it's kind of like a cleansing ritual. It's kind of like understanding, but if that dynamic plays out, it may not, but if it plays out wouldn't I be much more ready for it if I kind of allow it, know it's coming, and probably, become clear before it actually happened? What's my emotional, mental, and actual boundary in that flow? And when that flow actually presents itself, I'm very clear, who am I? Because the moment we lose energy and we disconnect and it becomes a burnout, the moment we are spontaneously dragged into dynamics that maybe we don't know our boundary in them, but we definitely need to have one. Maybe we have a history in that relationship and it's going to get played out, and I need to figure out who I am in the matter before I go deeper or further in that dynamic. Or maybe there's something about that person's energy, emotions, or dynamic that is just not compatible with me, although I love that person. Somebody may be a Grinch. I'm not a Grinch person. I love that person, but that doesn't mean I'm emotionally compatible with all my relatives, my friends, sometimes even my partner, right? He may be a Grinch, but I love him anyway. And if I want to really enjoy on all levels that day or that series of events without losing my energy, without losing my alignment with my own emotional frequency, then pretty much, I wouldn't go with my full enthusiasm over a Grinch relative, because it will clash. It will always clash. So I kept myself reserved a little bit. And if I come to have a joke with a Grinch, lucky me, I am already, uplifted. So that's something very important, I think. And I think, I actually dived into the answer of that question or that distinction before distinguishing the first step. And the first step, as I was preparing for our talk today, was distinguishing we do have emotional needs and we do have an inner rhythm to take care of. That's first step. How do you keep your emotional frequency high? How do you keep your frequency or your spiritual practice high during holidays? Is distinguishing that you need that and you need to carve time, energy, and focus to it. So if I can plan to take some time for myself to connect with my emotions, to uplift myself and realign with my emotional frequency, then I'm much more prepared moving into the holidays than just moving into them and being excited and kind of like forgetting all the things that are getting played out in the holiday season with my relatives, with my partner, with my children, all of the dynamics that take a toll on you and the subjects that take a toll on you. So having an awareness that you need to carve some time, and also having an awareness that you have to check in with your body, not just with your emotions, with your body, and feel your vitality basically throughout every single day. And how do you do that? Well, you ask yourself, am I up for it? Am I up for this party? Do I want it? Yes. Am I excited? Absolutely. Will I regret it if I don't attend? Pretty much. But am I up to it? Can I get up to it already? Not just physically dressed, right? But really fully energetically, vitality level ready for it. I, for example, had carved a party with a ladies' night out. And I was really excited. I kind of pushed everybody into it. And they were like a little bit, no, it's too soon to Christmas. I was like, yeah, but we never have the time, blah, blah, blah. And go figure, I got a flu. And I have 3 more other occasions I have to attend and a party to hold, right? One after the other. And I got a flu and my body's sick and my body's tired. And I've been, leading workshops anyway this full week and I'm not up for it. And I had to check in with my body and I had to leave my inner child on break, give him a candy and say, well, I don't think we're really, I don't think this is healthy for us. And I had a lot of regret and sadness about not attending the ladies' night out, okay? But my body wasn't ready. And if I would have moved into that and say yes to that, I would have had to manage my burnout and my exhaustion physically and energetically throughout all the parties. And it would have taken a toll on me. So I think how to take care of yourself, and an amazing practice that goes along, is pay attention to your emotions. Pay attention to your levels of energy and how they move through the day, because both of these things are interlinked. Sometimes you just have a physical burnout and you have to take care of yourself and you have to stop, recharge, bring your vitality up and move forward. Other times you're having a shortage of emotional connection, let's say, where you're not fed, you're not nurtured emotionally, whether by yourself or by working too much and getting exhausted, or by being triggered in your emotional wounds by something or somebody, or by literally having expectations of people to enjoy the joy together with you or give you appreciation, love, touch, gifts, and you haven't received them as you have expected them, as you have needed them. And now there's a shortage. You're not fed, you're not emotionally nurtured, and that can bring your vitality down as well. It can be very interlinked to your experience of burnout. That's very, very important. Taking care of your vitality, and that you access through your connection with your body. Literally asking yourself, am I tired? Am I up for it? What do I need here? And leaving a little bit the excitement apart when you answer yourself, like answer fully with wisdom, with a full honesty on all levels. Yeah, I'm excited, but if I drink one more coffee, it's not really going to be good for me, considering I have a flu, I've been working too much, I need to rest. Maybe I'll just join in a cup of tea. So all of these little things add up or make you slow down. And then, this links to the second question, which is very important, and it becomes very heightened as an area during the holiday season, because our inner child is very involved in this answer and in this area of development. And the question is, how do I establish boundaries, healthy boundaries, engage in healthy emotional dialogue with my loved ones, and how do I express honestly my feelings over the Christmas dinner, right? Or over all of these events. And basically, this is important, and this is linked to our previous question, how do you take care of yourself by following your emotions and following your vitality? Because this is where my inner child, our inner children kick in. Christmas can bring a lot of expectations and desires and emotional needs to surface. You can be a very good girl or woman, right? And really keep your expectations in check. Like, you don't have expectations anymore of people. You're very connected with yourself. You're doing your practice. You are taking care of your inner child. You are creating a momentum. Finally, you're empowered. Finally, you're cutting cords with everything that hurts you. You're your own queen. It's happening. It's a becoming, right? And boom, Christmas comes. And all of a sudden, you're like, something happens with Christmas where a Pandora box just opens, right? And when it opens, so does all our expectations of people. I can even feel it, right? It's like something in the air that releases all of this unspoken needs, unmet needs, emotional nurturing needs that we have, and expectations. And why does this happen? Because actually we're human beings and we should be intimately connected with other human beings. It's a basic need, right? But we're now discovering in our emotional development process that this basic need is not always met with grace and love by other people. So rather than experience a toxic dynamic, you prevent it. And you retrieve and you take care of yourself, right? It's a better alternative, let's say. But that doesn't mean your basic need as a human being to connect and be intimate is not there anymore. It will always be there. Now you're consciously managing it. You're consciously redirecting the flow in your life so that you are, in your choices, taking better care of yourself. And that's amazing. But that need is there. And with Christmas comes, the need to fulfill it. And it will play out in expectations, whether you like it or not, whether you think you've passed that theme or not. And you will have expectations, right? And then you'll get either fully acknowledged in your expectations and feel fulfilled, or disappointed in your expectations and feel deprived. And that's when the inner child gets triggered most of the times, right? Most of the times, because we are who we are and we need to bond and we need to do it our own way. And when it's not met by the person in front of us, especially the people that we love, right, that are dear to us, let alone our parents or our, further along relatives, then it's the memory of everything that I've lived my whole life. So not only we have expectations and we're finally clashing again with the reality of having those expectations fulfilled or not, but the memories from the past of our previous dynamics kick in, whether we like it or not, and we get triggered, right? And when we get triggered, we have two options, or more than two options. One of them is to just get triggered, and then we experience the same old dynamic where we get upset, we start crying, we get angry, we get pissed off, we make a tantrum at the dinner or a conflict, we blame our parents, whatever. The flow that we've been doing and covering through our whole childhood and adolescent trauma. And that's it. That's what people usually do. That's what happens at Christmas dinner. Yeah, everybody gets dressed up. We have the food on the table. Everybody's super excited. We're all in. It's all going to be a fantasy. I can feel it. This time is going to be different. My expectations are different and my family is going to be different. And all of a sudden, all the history is going to erase itself, right? Because Santa takes care of it. And 20 minutes into the Christmas dinner, somebody says something and boom, the whole history is back. And it's so there and you can't avoid it anymore and you're trapped in it. And then everybody plays out their own character within that story and that history, right? And everybody does their best, but they're on automatic pilot. Because at Christmas dinners, we've never introduced really the tradition of just holding hands, breathing with our own misfortune, and consciously observe what's going on with us. And then speak, right? So basically, a great boundary for you before even thinking about how to set up boundaries with others is to have a boundary within yourself, knowing that your expectations will get triggered, knowing that within that flow, maybe disappointments and memories from the past will get triggered and resurface. And inside of that, your number one task is to take care of yourself and your inner child, to not engage with the other characters at the table within the story, because you all know how that plays out. Stop, breathe, and take care of it. Retrieve in your inner sanctuary or in a physical space that's different than the Christmas dinner, in the attic or the office or whatever. Go out on a walk and ask your inner child, what do you feel? What do you need to cry over? What's the expectation that hasn't been met? What is your emotional need now? How can I show up for it in a way that you feel loved, you feel seen, you feel validated? By who? By me, your mother, your conscious mother showing up in your life right now and being here for you. And your inner child eventually, will talk to you. And if you're here for the first time and you're listening to your inner child, to this inner child distinction, and maybe you haven't connected with your inner child yet, which I totally encourage you to follow us and start doing, because it's really, really amazingly beneficial for your emotional health. You can just keep walking until those energies inside of you clear out, And when that happens, step number 2 is to ask yourself, how do I regroup and gather my vital energy so that I can be my best self and really come back to the party detached, neutral? In a way, watching a movie of all the other characters who are either conscious or on automatic pilot based on their development, and enjoy the ride but not be involved in it. Because this will give you a neutral place, and it will start giving you access to your emotional adultness. Meaning, I am taking care of my own expectations, disappointments, sadness, and whatever gets triggered by my own history, by characters in my own history. I'm taking care of my story. I'm taking care of myself inside of my life. And now I can be free and cut cords with everybody else, because I don't need anybody else to feel okay now. I can be okay by myself. And then I can even be an observer, a detached observer of how other people play out their own character within that story. And I can stay there in neutrality. I can just show up in kindness and just, be kind to people with no particular agenda or without feeling that I overstep my own boundary. Or I can bring wisdom, understanding, and compassion, which doesn't mean giving advice or making a therapy session out of each dialogue with a relative, but just literally understand that there's a human being that's playing out a dynamic because of his own wounds and his own trauma, and he's not in a place where he's ready to talk about it, or he's not in a place where he's ready to own it, or he's not in a place where he's ready to be neutral, and that's okay. We're all humans, we're all learning, we're all on the journey, and we're all doing our best. And then peace comes. Peace comes, and you are the balance. You are the harmony. You are the peace within that story. You are changing without even understanding that you are changing, without even focusing on changing. You are changing the field, the morphic field of your history, the morphic field of your family, by being something else and showing up differently. And I want to talk a little bit, very briefly, before I start the Q&A about something, because I think a lot of people struggle with communication in a way that doesn't trigger people off. Because usually we trigger people when we are in our own trigger and we're communicating from that level of hurt, or that level of connection with our own hurt or pain or sadness or anger. When we're communicating from that place without taking care of ourselves and our inner child before, it will always trigger something else in another. Because a wound will always attract a wound. That's why I said, go on a walk, take care of your inner child, get in a neutral place, figure out or connect with neutrality, kindness, or compassion, and then step into the history again. And look at it like you would go to a movie. Don't look at it like you start all over again, right? The dynamic. Actually, when we are in a neutral place, that's when we can really communicate a boundary and start a conversation that may start as a conflictual dialogue. Why? Because you may be in a neutral position and you may just openly and honestly, in a nice manner, talk about what you feel or what you need or what's your point of view or attitude in relationship to something, right? A dynamic, a situation, your family situation, whatever it is. And you may be neutral. You may even be kind. You may even be feminine and, at ease. But what you're saying triggers a wound in another or triggers his ego. And you're in the middle of a conflict immediately, in a conflictual space, let's say. How do you keep communicating your boundary and your honest experience further? Well, you bring the respect and space into the conversation, and you don't bring it physically, you bring it through your attitude, saying something like that. I want to share with you how I am feeling. I understand that it may be uncomfortable, and if it is, I apologize, or I'm sorry for the uncomfortability. I'm not sorry for what I'm saying. And I want you to understand I'm doing this for myself, but I'm also doing this, communicating my feelings, for something that I truly think is possible, which is a change in our dynamic. And whether that will feel uncomfortable or it will feel graceful, I want to do it anyway. And I'm taking that risk here. And if you feel in any way upset by it, I can get that. I can respect that. And I understand if you want to stop talking or end the dialogue. I assure you that I'm sharing about these feelings without trying to create more conflict. However, I feel I deeply need to share this way with you. And in a way, you're telling that person you have the freedom, and I honor however you will feel about it and whatever you will feel to do about it. And you may be talking like that, or you may be being like that. And then when that person gets uncomfortable, because it may not, that person may be welcoming your honesty, may be refreshed by your boundaries, may be uplifted by your approach, or he may be triggered. He may be triggered. Allow people to get triggered. You can't manage people. And I think that's where our inner child gets in the way a little bit, because we either get afraid that people will get upset and we will ruin our relationships, or we get offended that people don't get us, and it's still ego, it's still our wounded self. It's like other people getting uncomfortable, being upset, and even not wanting to talk to you when you set up a clear boundary. Give them space to process your communication. And when you do that, you respect them and you respect yourself. And that also empowers you to keep your boundary, whether those people feel comfortable or not. Because the purpose of communicating with deep honesty, a healthy boundary, is not for you to communicate it. It's for you to actually establish it. And if you communicate it, but then you get afraid or pissed off, and you lower your frequency in the dialogue you've opened, that's a confirmation for the other that you're not ready to really hold that boundary and really make a change. If you can be honest about a boundary and keep it, right? That's when that person, whether they like it or not, eventually they get that this is the new you they're talking to. And you may say, listen, I have some honest feelings and I would like to move into a different dynamic, but I don't know if I'm ready to move there, but I want to say everything that I'm feeling anyway. So it's very important when you set up a healthy boundary to understand how far are you going with that boundary. Literally, how far are you going? What do you really want in that relationship? And I think people don't do that thinking before. They just want to, I want to feel more respected, or I want to feel more seen, or I want people to actually appreciate my effort. And they stop with what they need, and then they go in life and they are pushing that truth or that need onto people without an introduction, without a new contract, without a context. And then people get offended or triggered because they're all of a sudden given a new assignment and they don't like it, or it pushes them out of their own comfort zone, and of course they don't like it, and then conflict rises. But I think when you want a healthy boundary installed in your relationships with people, you have to do a little bit more homework before you actually communicate it, to understand, what do I want to achieve in my life, and am I ready to manage the uncomfortableness that I will create by honestly expressing this boundary right now. And I promise you, when I took this filter on, I oftentimes have stopped sharing that boundary. I said, I'm not up for that conversation right now, or I'm not up for that conversation this month. It doesn't mean I've hold myself back or I've compromised with myself or I haven't done my homework in the end. But I've understood that it will take more energy than I think. It will definitely take more of me and of the other person than just sharing it. I think people just they drop the bomb and that's it. They don't actually want to manage the explosion. And I think when we understand that it is our accountability and responsibility towards ourselves to manage the explosion of each bomb we drop in a dynamic by announcing a boundary and being honest about something and stepping into emotional vulnerability, that's when we are going to move through conflict into productive conflict, and from productive conflict into managing a new dynamic, taking our time with it, allowing our partner to take its time with it, and finally settling it into something else. And I think that's the reason why people feel that when we go into therapy and we start talking about our honest feelings, it's more of a mess than it is a harmonious breakthrough, right? Because we're not doing the homework, actually. We're not doing all of the work that's implied. You need to take accountability, not just for your own boundary, but what it will entail for another. Because you are changing the flow. You are influencing your dynamic with another. And you are making him or her uncomfortable. If you take accountability for that and you own that and you honor that and you bring it into your communication, it will ease the trigger. It will ease the negative impact the other person gets. Of course, they will be pushed into an uncomfortable process and they will have to make a choice. And whether they will communicate that choice or not, their attitude and action will speak louder and you will know. And then you will have to say something about it. And that's when you move from communication into working within a dynamic and see how it develops through your action, their action, your action, their action, each other's choices. And eventually this will either end, fade away, or move into something new. And these are my insights regarding these amazing things. I'm going to also put below 2 resources for you at the end of our podcast. One is the 3 rituals of embodiment that will help you, if you don't know it already, because most of you are our community members, you may know it already. There are 3 rituals that you can do in the morning, during the day, and in the evening to really take care of yourself energetically and really take care of your feminine flow. And I'm also going to add a link to our previous podcast. We have 46 plus podcasts on many different themes. And if you're ever in need of inspiration, you can stroll through our history and our playlist and pick a subject that you long for and get yourself a boost, right? A boost of feminine inspiration and feminine energy. So we are ready to take live questions now and answer other previous questions on the topic. Who would like to join us? And I see somebody raising their hands. Okay, Georgie, welcome, honey. Do you hear us?
Hello. Yes, I hear you. Do you hear me well?
Yes. Hello.
Yes. It's a bit strange to speak without the face, but
Yes.
I will try my best. Yes. So it's so beautiful. Just the space. I wanted to say thank you to everyone. It's like it's a cradle. It's a cradle in these times. This is how I feel, especially in the solstice.
Yes.
So I have a question. It's regarding some. I don't know how to express it or elaborate in a simple way, but it's more regarding some conflicting feelings I have with my oldest practice, which is the non-dual path, so the direct path. I don't know if you know about it, and sometimes diving totally in the more in our work, in the more ritualistic form, I find that I have some resistance to it. Um, even though I kind of understand that it's kind of the way I put it in my mind. It's that surrendering to the Shakti and to the feminine would be more the tantric approach within my path. I still have some resistance as to feeling like that. I don't know. I don't know how to express it better. So sometimes I feel resistance to the practice, and sometimes to the yes, it's more to the practice and to the ritual approaches. Even I enjoy very much doing them. I have that.
How does that resistance play out in the body? Can you describe that pattern more?
Yes, I get tense, and I get sometimes tense, sometimes I fall asleep. Like in the last meditation, it was so beautiful, but I totally fell asleep, and I don't know if it's falling asleep out of total surrender, or out of resistance. So it's sometimes a contraction, and sometimes it's like this total falling asleep, so.
Yes. So basically, you're not resisting. What's happening is that the patterns of trauma are present whenever we are doing the practice and we're going deeper. And they're showing up because that's the purpose, for us to pay attention to them and notice what's going on and allow the practice to eventually embrace that pattern and melt it. So when you are falling asleep, it's actually the mind is not ready. That's your signal that the rational mind is not ready for that nonlinear experience. It's afraid of it, or it's in ego mode, yes? And it doesn't want, it's not ready for it, let's say that. And it shuts down. And that's a phase, and it shouldn't bother you. You should bring kindness and acceptance to it, because it's just a phase. If you bring kindness and acceptance to it, you can move into holding the intention that with love and acceptance in your own rhythm, you are opening even your mind, right? You're becoming ready on a mental level to become presently engaged with a nonlinear experience. So when resistance or patterns kick in the body or kick in our process, how I work with them is I start observing the pattern rather than work with it or trying to push around it or move through it. Basically, I start breathing with the pattern, and I hold this intention that through the practice, I embrace with warmth and fluidity and compassion or kindness or just simple breath my resisting pattern. So it's like I see it like an inner child who is, it's not my inner child, but I kind of approach it like it is my inner child, and I'm observing, breathing, and holding it in kindness. And I'm just simply playing, being with it, dancing with it. And I don't focus anymore on the practice. I don't put a pressure about the practice. I don't have an objective in the practice. I just do the practice as a way for me to kindly love this pattern that I'm experiencing. So I start to embrace my resistance.
Perfect. Yes, that's really the way that I was doing it, because that's the way I work as my approach. So that is really beautiful. That it's good. It's really perfect.
And then
perfect.
You just need patience.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and in time, you need time. Give yourself time. Don't rush into it. Don't think you have to do something else, because you're actually, that's what you're doing. You are healing, and you are working with what's rising inside of that healing, and you don't have to know it. You have to just be with it, right? And it will take its time to melt. And when that melting will happen, it will bring energy to all your intentions, to all the areas you're working on. So you don't have to focus on manifestation. You can just dance and love your pattern, your restriction, right? Your limiting pattern, because the more you move into melting that through love and kindness for yourself and for it, then everything else opens.
Thank you so much. This is really perfect, because it's really my approach to everything. So it really now it's really kind of a confirmation of everything. So perfect.
Yes, you're on
Thank
the
you so
right
much.
track. You're on the right track.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So beautiful. All right, we had another person. Kyla, hello, beautiful. We can hear you now.
Hello, Lana.
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you for doing this podcast. So my question is, so I have always been kind of like the people pleaser, and I feel like that has created a lot of expectations, which makes it so it's hard for me to say no when people ask me to do things for them. And I've now I've moved away from home. I'm far enough away that like I can't be called upon all the time, but I'm so close enough that like I could go back quite easily. But I feel like I have a hard time saying no when things are asked of me that I don't want to do, including like constantly going like for Christmas. It's always the expectation that I travel to go for Christmas dinner, or that when there's things that need to be done in the house, or like keep the peace in the house. I always feel like I'm that person, and I have a hard time saying no. And then I feel guilty when I do say no. So how do I manage that, or get stronger in being able to say my no's without feeling that guilt?
By understanding that the guilt is the price you pay for empowering yourself to say no. The guilt is actually an energetic imprint that activates itself the moment you are cutting cords with your family members, partners, or ancestors. And it's kind of like the backlash, the energetic backlash turned into an emotional, guilt of you cutting the cords through your no. And it's the price you have to pay for upsetting the norm and the dynamic. Think of it like that. And it's something that you will drop it, you will lose it after a while, but you have to pay the price for a while. Why? Because everything is in balance. We think of things in terms of bad and good, but in life, the universe, the energetic flow of life is not bad nor good. It's energy. And whether a pattern that we experience is bad or good, that's our perception or our interpretation. The universe doesn't think in these terms. A pattern is a pattern. When you upset it, you will create a ripple effect, right? When you take an action and when you drop a little stone into a lake, you'll create a ripple effect, right? You have created an uncomfortableness inside of the peacefulness and the quiet of the lake, right? So you are meant to do good for you. You're doing this to upgrade yourself. You're doing this to be more on your own note, right? To have your back and to be more authentic. But the lake, meaning your family or the dynamics you've been entertaining in the previous flow, right? They're all living in harmony. You're the rebel, right? You're upsetting the norm, let's say, on an energetic level. So when you upset something, you have to understand, you have to pay a price, but not in the sense of punishment, just in the sense that you are interfering with an equilibrium that existed within the energetic flow of that particular field, energetic field. So now for a new order or new harmony to be established, you have to do something with the amount of energy you disturbed, right? And it plays out, in this case, as a guilt. Now, if you move forward with the no and just process the guilt consciously, saying, I sit within my no, I pay the price, and I breathe and detox myself from the guilt. I cleanse myself from the guilt because it's an inauthentic experience. I shouldn't feel guilty. The guilt is coming from the belief that you shouldn't feel free to say no, and you're not allowed. And that's a family belief, right? So you're bringing in a new value into the family system, and everybody is like loud and crying, you're disrupting us, And you're saying, yes, I'm disrupting you, and I'm paying the price, and I own it. And I will pay my price, and I will keep pushing forward, disrupting this flow. And I'm owning it, and I'm taking accountability for it, and I'm managing that amount of energy that I've disrupted that now needs to clear itself out or re-establish itself in a new dynamic. And until the new dynamic settles in, the guilt is the price with brackets, of course, right? Not like a punishment, but the amount of work energetically you have to work with and cleanse and detox and clear from the space, from the dynamic, so that a new order can be settled in the flow. And when you know that, you just, breathe with your guilt, because it's an energy. You can take your inner child in your arms and tell him or her, you don't have to please anybody anymore in order to belong. You belong to me, and me as a parent, as a guardian angel, as a loving, caring parent to you. I give you permission to say no and not feel guilty and be free about it. And if other people get upset, it's okay. Mommy will take care of it. You still have the freedom to enjoy your no. And that, I promise you, if you do both of these two things, an energetic cleansing of the guilt, like literally breathing, observing the guilt, let it, the energy from your body, let it all out through shaking or, whatever physical, energetical practice you choose to feel into it, to apply. And you learn to talk to your inner child that saying no is okay, and he has the freedom and your support and your unconditional love, and you belong to one another. And if people get upset and leave, that's their problem, because you are together and you're a family. Both of these two practices will help you cleanse the guilt much faster and get empowered in your no.
Okay.
Does that make it easier, or not necessarily easier, but simple?
Yeah. It takes away kind of that hard feeling of the guilt. Like, it changes the way that the guilt will be perceived.
The guilt will pass away.
Good.
Yes, the guilt will pass away. Thank you as well, Kyla. Very powerful question. All right. So let's dive into other questions some women asked, and then we will wrap this amazing live session. How to stay in your femininity when someone is trying to push your boundaries. How to just be when we are so accustomed to doing. I'd like to know more about being more into my feminine energy and using it as a strength. How can I understand what femininity looks like for me? And somebody asked more practices to, keep your vitality up. And we will share the 3 rituals of feminine embodiment as a way for you to harness and cultivate your feminine energy throughout the holiday season. And I picked this. We had a lot. We had questions on menopause, sexuality, relationships, self-empowerment, so many questions. I picked these 4 questions because they're pretty much around, I think, 2 important themes. One is, how do you step into being more feminine, right? And when somebody is pushing you out of your feminine energy, what do you do? And when you are also triggered to go into doing rather than sitting in your feminine energy, what do you do? And I think these are, the main themes behind the questions. And I think the most simple way to understand being more feminine is through the practice. Why? Because in the energetic practices that we teach, and the 3 rituals of feminine embodiment are, a very good start for those of you who are not currently, participating or haven't been participating in our programs. Practices are the most simple way to become feminine because they are connecting you directly with the feminine energy that lives within the body, and through her, with the feminine energy itself. The Shakti's energy, the divine feminine, life force energy, in energy, however you want to call it. Yes? And when you are consciously, energetically connecting with the feminine energy, the feminine becomes a spiritual guide. And this transmission, this wisdom that's coming through, it's not happening in a mental discourse. It's not like a goddess is showing up, takes a physical form and starts teaching you something. It basically is a very intimate, intangible experience where you just feel more relaxed. You just feel more at ease. You can cry, or you can connect to an inner truth that's been bubbling up behind the scene. You kind of felt it, you kind of connected with it, but you weren't ready to fully step into it. Or, you're having this huge insight or revelation about something that's going to happen in the future, or something that you need to heal, or something that you've been avoiding in terms of truth in a dynamic or a situation, or you are coming to the realization of an emotional need or an emotional wound with you or somebody else. So basically, these little insights or sensations or experiences are a direct way of the feminine energy teaching you in the moment how to be feminine. It starts with cleansing and healing, because you can't really access a feminine energetic pattern until you have released yourself from the wounded pattern or the masculine pattern you've been acting inside of for quite a while, right? So there comes an experience of healing, or a realization that moves you into healing, and that is an expansion. And in that open field, right, eventually you will, through the practice, start tuning into, feel intuitively something new energetically arising. Like there's a new feminine attribute, attitude, value, energetic imprint that's slowly rising, right? It may be connected to your health, it may be connected to love, sexuality, sensuality, feminine flow, empowerment, your voice, whatever. You don't know, you can't control it. It's a birth. And that's how you step into the feminine. That's how you understand what femininity looks for you, because it will be very different for you than it is for me. And I hate formulas, because I think we're so complex and unique. We don't need formulas. We just need real, wise, spiritual, authentic principles that enable us to create an environment internally that's healthy and loving and nurturing of our own unique expression. The only thing we have to learn is to create that environment and be patient and sensitive to ignite that birth and understand it and validate it as it happens. And that birthing process is very fragile, is very sensitive, right? So it will be attacked by what? By our limiting patterns and sabotaging mechanisms, or by outside forces, like people triggering us to move back into the old because it's more comfortable for them, or they fear change. And when that happens, you have to become a tiger, a mother tiger, who literally protects with her own life her child. This time, the birth of your feminine self. And that protection means you are saying the birth is more important than any other trigger that kicks in. And any other trigger is that, a trigger that's meant to take my focus away from the loving, nurturing, cradling environment I have to create, right? To allow the feminine to move with ease inside of me, because we all have it. It's not you have to get it. It's you have to awaken to it. It's there already, right? And when you understand that your primordial function is to create this safe womb for yourself, for the feminine to rise inside of you, then the task is not to move from the head into the body, or to lose the stress, or to, become impatient that you don't feel yourself or you don't feel your emotions, or to, become obsessed or, talk in your head about what the person said, what should be doing inside of that dynamic, and how you should put yourself inside of that dynamic to win or dominate, or all of these things. These are part of the mind, and they are distractions. When somebody triggers me and I go mad, or I go into my wound, and as an effect of that, I become harsh and hard and very masculine and very high alert. And that's my trigger, and that's my masculine side. I eventually pay attention to the fact that I'm aggressive or I'm intense, right? And I always know when I'm aggressive and intense is because I feel afraid. I don't feel safe. And it's either I don't feel safe as a woman, or I don't feel safe as an inner child. So when I start understanding or feeling that I've already got triggered and I've crossed my boundary and I've moved into the masculine, and I pay attention to my masculine coming out, I take my time, I stop within myself to reflect, and I ask myself, I observe, and then I breathe with myself, and then I ask myself what I'm afraid. What am I afraid of? And sometimes my fears are valid. It's not that the challenges or the obstacles or the concerns are a projection. They may be real lifetime threatening obstacles or amazing blockages, like, I don't know, whatever, my child is sick, or I don't have the infrastructure to, put something into motion, or I don't get the money to pay for a bill, or whatever. Each one of us have different concerns or valid fears. Or I feel threatened by my partner because he has, his energy moved the dynamic into a place that is volatile or feels threatening for me. And what do I do with that is I ask myself, what am I afraid of? And I listen to the answer, or the list of answers most of the times. And I say to myself, okay, what are those, from all this list, what are the fears that are valid, real, the real threatening or challenging obstacles? What are emotional fears, meaning that I fear things that didn't happen yet, and I project a scenario? And what are fears that are rising from my incapacity and my weakness or my wound? So I move my fears or my upset in 3 categories. And then I ask myself, how do I secure myself, or how do I honor myself, or how do I love myself while I'm experiencing this fear? Because you want to get to the root of why you are moving over a boundary or acting masculine or moving into doing, right? And you want to connect with the emotional experience behind the pattern, behind the attitude, behind the action. And then you ask yourself, what do I need to offer myself here? And most of the times people think, yeah, but I just need more money. How can I offer myself more money? That's the problem. I didn't make them. No, you will make them if you calm yourself down, or if you get out of feeling threatened that you don't have them, you didn't get them, and you can't manage the situation. So how do you get yourself to secure yourself and calm yourself down and empower yourself with the situation of not being able to generate the money? And then it's like moving from fear into acceptance and empowerment. So you're dealing with the emotional component of your obstacle, of how you are feeling within that obstacle. And when your feelings change and elevate, your brain starts becoming creative. You start thinking differently. You start getting ideas and solutions about the problems you have, and then you fix them. So that's how I work when something triggers me, or something threatens me, or something challenges me, and I can't cope with it from the very beginning. And basically, I empower my feminine, right? And when I empower my feminine and I allow my feminine, sometimes there will be a clash, and I will say that, how do I make it a strength? Well, at the beginning, you may not be able to make it a strength, but you may be on the path that will enable the feminine that you are birthing to become your most important strength. But you first have to birth it, or you first have to become a womb for that feminine to rise inside of, right? And it's just holding that intention inside. And when the feminine births itself, sometimes, like a baby, it's weak. Like a baby, it can't walk the first year, right? So you can't have an expectation that all of a sudden this baby, you've birthed a whole grown, empowered, wise woman or a fully Wonder Woman. No, she may be a Wonder Woman as a potential, but she's at the beginning of her life rising into a full Wonder Woman. So how do you take care of a little girl? How do you take care of an infant? How do you take care of an adolescent? Whatever the stage of your feminine flow is, where with love, care, and patience, you nurture that within you until it becomes more powerful, more grounded, more embodied. And it will reward you. Your patience will be rewarded. It will reward you because when it will fully become something strong within you, it will be something that you can then allow to the world. You can express it into the world, and they will see a feminine embodied woman who is bringing a feminine energy to the challenge. But you have to discover it and explore it yourself. And the reason why that is happening is because we don't have references. We don't have models of embodied women, feminine embodied women. You are pioneers. We're all having this conversation as we're having it. We're pioneering what it means to be a feminine embodied woman in this lifetime. There are very few models. Nobody knows. The examples we have are masculine, and they're wounded feminine. So the feminine will always be there, and the feminine will always help you birth it. But you have to move from trying to push an outcome into giving birth to something. And if you didn't carry a child, a biological child in your womb, physical womb, until now, because you didn't have a child until now, let me share with you a little bit from my physical personal experience. When I got pregnant, I couldn't do most of the practices anymore. And I felt internally, I just have to sit like this, like a hen on eggs the whole 9 months. It was very infuriating for my tigress, for my inner panther, because I felt all of the sudden I shifted into this hen who just sits on the eggs waiting for the eggs to crack. And that was a very energetic impulse, right? And it's connected to what the child, the fetus, the rising child needs. It needs a stable environment that's glued to the earth because it's feeding on the energy of the earth, for the soul to get into the body and for the body to grow, to encapsulate the soul, and then for the organs to develop. So all the high intense sexual energetic practices, all the shaking practices, everything, that would be adventurous, I would feel from my inner gut to slow down and not do it. I was just like a hen sitting on eggs waiting to crack, basically. And I waited a lot, like 40 weeks or something. She didn't want to really birth itself. But it's like the gestation period. It can be annoying for the mind. It can even be annoying for the wild woman in you, but it's basically what the child needs. So with every birth, you have to consider creating a stable, safe space within you where you have infinite patience. Because the birth has its own rhythm, you can't control it. I gave birth in 48 hours. It was hell. Some people, I heard 3 days. The most amount of days I've heard natural birth happen. So I'm glad mine took just 2. But basically, it is what it is. You can't control it. You're moving with the rhythm of the birth, and you're moving with the rhythm of the child, and you're moving with your own rhythm. And it oversees the mind. So when you want to connect more with your feminine process on the feminine path, the first approach is don't think it. Move into an intention. say, I want to connect with the feminine, you ask for help. The practice and the guides that are coming through, the divine feminine that's coming through, help me move into the right energetic attitude or approach that enables me to create a safe and stable environment for the birth of the feminine to come through. And I promise you, you'll be guided internally. You will be guided from within. You just have to be willing to listen to it. And you don't have to overthink the listening. It will happen through sensations, emotions, inner messages, and an inner gut. Like the body is moving into the right position. If you would allow women to birth in a natural way, they would stand up. That's the natural position. The body knows. The body and God made you apt for birthing. And there's no difference between birthing a psychological, spiritual part of yourself and birthing a physical child. You are apt for it. It is part of your DNA. It is part of the wisdom and the legacy of the feminine. You just have to open yourself to that amazing experience and say, okay, I'm open, I'm ready, guide me. And then the practices and the energy that rises through the practice will guide you. Just command it. Command it, hold that intention, put it in the space, drop your mind, or you just embrace your mind, however hectic it is, move into the practice. And I promise you, slowly and surely, that energy will build up and it will guide you. So that's my answer for all of these questions in a bulk. And I'll come back to some of them as we move forward. Thank you so much for today's episode. We see each other next week, 29th of December, Friday, same place, same hour. I love you. Take good care of you over the Christmas dinner. And if you can, with kindness and compassion, show up for yourself. And in showing up for yourself, show up for others. We are really walking the talk and being an inspiration for others when we are taking good care of ourselves in a way that is respectful and honoring of ourselves and others. Have a feminine week, a feminine connected week. Take care of yourself, and thank you so much for joining. See you next time, next episode, with how to manage our energy to manifest our intentions in the new year that's coming. Have an amazing day ahead. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Feminine Podcast. Next week, we'll dive into another engaging topic chosen by you, our listeners. Have a question or a story to share? Check the description box below and send it our way. And before you go, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out on our next episode. Follow us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube, and make sure you comment, ask questions, and share our episode with other women in your life. Remember, every dialogue we have is a step closer to discovering your feminine potential and how you can create a life that's truly feminine, a life that you love. Catch you next week.